Hey, I'm Dave, and welcome back to the Armory. It's Halloween, which means it's time to carve pumpkins. I could cut a pumpkin like a normal person, but that's not what we do here. Instead, we're going to use Herman, and we're going to try a couple different ways to carve pumpkins with a robot arm. Herman's still a really small arm, which means at best I'm going to be able to mount a rotary tool on the end of it. So I'm going to 3D model that inside of Blender, 3D print it out. It's going to mount to the end of the arm and have little braces to be able to hold the rotary tool on the end of the robot. I'm also going to be using a drywall bit in the end of it. I'm hoping this is enough to be able to cut through a pumpkin pretty well without just shredding it. If it's not though, I'm probably going to have to switch to a proper router bit. Now that the hardware is all done and I have my rotary tool mounted on here, it's time to get to software. So first I need to measure the pumpkin just to get a rough idea of how big it is so that in the computer I can put the path on it so that the depths and angles are more accurate. In my case, I've been playing a lot of Cuphead lately, so I'm probably going to go with Cuphead and Mugman since I have a couple different pumpkins here. Now what I'm going to do the software in is probably Mastercam. It's a multi-axis cam software that I know, so I'm comfortable with it, but pretty much any cam software should work. Inside of Mastercam, I'm going to get some line drawings of the different shapes that I want to cut, and I'm going to project them onto my pumpkin. Once those are projected on there, I'm going to make a path that follows those contours with the offset of the tool width, and I'm going to have the tool always pointed towards the center of the pumpkin. And then it's not just planar, it'll get nice cleaner cuts, always kind of angled in. Once the program's all done in Mastercam, I'm going to post the code and then run it through a few scripts I wrote that will convert it into UR3. Then I can just load that straight onto the controller and run it. Herman can cut a pumpkin with a Dremel, and that's pretty cool. But what I want to know is if he can cut a pumpkin with a knife, like a person. We interrupt this broadcast for a special announcement. Mounting cutting tools on a robot is inherently dangerous, even with a collaborative arm. Collaborative arms use the force sensors in individual joints or external sensors to know if they're putting too much force in a single area. The problem is, with a knife or cutting tool, it can take zero force to cause injury. So if you're having any sort of cutting tool on your robot, make sure you have an external safety system, like fencing or a safety laser, to make sure to protect yourself, the people around you, and your equipment.
And now back to your regular programming.
That worked pretty well. The arm did all the motions I wanted it to do, and it made some really nice clean cuts with the knife. The biggest problem I saw is when the knife would come in and it didn't hit a surface perpendicular, the knife would graze off first before it started cutting, which made it not cut at all where I wanted it to. You saw that the most around the mouth, where it hit the pumpkin at a pretty shallow angle and ended up grazing off before it cut. That could pretty easily be fixed by getting a shorter blade, or switching to something like an ultrasonic knife or maybe a spinning tool like a Dremel or a rotor. I really enjoyed using Herman for this part of the project. I could use hand teaching to really quickly teach the program without needing to use the pendant. Also, joint 4 on Herman is turned 90 degrees compared to a lot of robots. That, in this case, was really nice because I could work with the knife out of joint 6 and work directly in front of the robot without having to worry about singularity. So that made programming a lot easier too. Like I said earlier, the fact that Herman is collaborative wasn't really all that important in this case, since the dangerous portion of it had nothing to do with force. So when I was running it, I made sure to stay well outside of reach. I had an e-stop, and I also had someone else with an e-stop the whole time too. I had a lot of fun hacking apart pumpkins with a robot. If you have any questions or comments about what I did, or if you have suggestions for other videos, make sure to put that down in the comments. Also, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the little bell so you get notified about new videos that I have coming out. Robots are awesome, and I'll see you next time.